take this as far as the
Sure.
staff goes?
In absence of Mr. Nichols, I will talk as best I can about this. We're here today to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance amending the Board of Supervisors salary and benefits. This is the introduction, so there'll be a second reading and move for adoption on June 25th. In July, all county employees are required to pay the full contribution to their CalPERS retirement plan. In exchange, employee salaries were increased by a like amount, so it's ultimately a cost-neutral thing for the county. The employees are picking up more. They negotiated an increase in their salaries. The proposed amendment to this ordinance will apply the same changes to the county supervisors' salaries and benefits that to move them in line with the other elected officials of the county.
Questions or comments by board members?
Just a question, Julie, I mean, this is the same that all county employees have received through the negotiation.
Yes,
That's all we're doing, we see it the same as all employees.
right.
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? I'd be happy to take them. Ms. Hodge? Dean Hodge?
I don't understand, do you have to pay more money every month, or I don't know how it stays cost neutral?
Starting in July, the
was gonna say,
supervisors
I
actually are
agree.
going to be taking a pay decrease because this won't be in effect until the end of September. So starting July 1st, according to PEPRA, which is the pension reform, and I'm not a pension reform expert, but I'll do my best to talk about this. County employees are required to pay their full share, and prior to that, the county paid a portion of employees for their benefit, their retirement. And now, according to the PEPRA changes, employees are required to pick up their full share, so through negotiations, they negotiated an increase in their salaries so that it wouldn't hurt the employees' paychecks. So ultimately, what we're doing is just providing the same thing, opportunity for the supervisors, but they will not receive this benefit until September, so they will have a pay decrease starting in July.
So my question is, though, it still isn't revenue neutral to the taxpayers. It's still a pay raise or a benefit raise. So if this year I go buy a pair of shoes and they're $50, next year I go, they're $60, I end up spending $10 more. So that's not revenue neutral.
Where
I don't
where
understand.
it's neutral is the employees, the county was taking and saying, okay, for our employees, we will pay this portion of your retirement. According to PEPRA, we can't do that anymore. We're not allowed to do that. So the employees have to pay that whole thing. So the county's paying less than that, the employees are paying more. Now the employees are going to get a raise in salary to cover that impact to their paychecks.
So basically to the general fund, I don't know who it's...
We were going to pay either way. We had to pay the retirement for the employees, and now we're not allowed to do that anymore. So what they negotiated is we would pay the employees, and the employees will have to pay the retirement.
I see.
So
Basically, nobody's paying anything, the taxpayers are paying, no matter how you say it.
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's to not impact our employees in a negative manner. How I see it.
Anybody else in the audience? Ms. Spencer, did I see your hand up? Did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I think I agree with Jean that it isn't neutral. It just isn't. And even though you phrase it that way, it isn't neutral. What I'm concerned about is that when it comes to giving you guys a pay raise, I'm hoping that it will be transparent and not waive the first reading, and I don't understand how you can do that, or why you do it, waive the first reading. I mean, can you explain that term, somebody?
Well, yeah, I'm going to counsel candidate. My understanding is instead of reading the entire ordinance out on the agenda item, which is right here, instead of reading it word for word, when you say word for reading, that's all you're saying is we're not going to read it word for word. Here it is right here, it's totally transparent, it's on the agenda, I mean, it's totally transparent.
It's not available to the public, so the public is here, and you're gonna waive the first reading, so we honestly have no idea what that says. So, I mean, I don't care if you read it or not read it, it's not that long. But the fact that it's not available to the public even to read or respond to is troubling.
Just for clarification, I am on the website and I'm reading it as any member of the public can read it. It's right here. I've got it right here. Anybody can be reading it.
It's also in the back of the room.
It's in the back of the room. It's hard copy.
I don't know how
That's what's on
much
the
more
website.
transparent we can be, I just don't understand.
Probably just now.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions from the audience on this matter? Chair would entertain a motion.
Just under discussion.
Sure.
I mean, I really, I appreciate, you know, the, you know, I mean, I've, over the years, have been critical, you know, of the county and the board and, you know, probably in the future, or whatever, you know, may still, well, maybe, but, you know, I appreciate people coming in and, you know, keeping us honest, if you will, for lack of a better word, but, it's just, it's not right to, with all due respect, for people to come in and make false statements like this isn't public information. I'm sorry, you know. I mean, I appreciate the good work, you know, you do for the people and you try, but to come and say that this is not available to the public. I mean, you know, I go on and review this stuff, you know, on Thursday. Occasionally it's come out on Friday, you know, a couple of times. But it's there for the public, you know, with anybody with internet access. Everything that we have here today, I mean, it is. I
No,
mean,
it
I
isn't.
promise you, it comes on a PDF, you can have a look.
It may be
It's on the
due,
screen right here.
I know that it takes 5 seconds to upload that, so
Or
it's
whatever,
down
but
there.
to say it's
But
not
this
available,
morning,
like it's a big
you-
secret, you
No,
know,
it's
that's
not a big
just not
secret.
right,
It
because
may,
all you
maybe a
do-
technical
Supervisor
issue.
Wasik has the floor.
It's really, it's kind of like discrediting the work that I know you're trying to do, is to be like a public, you know, watch person or whatever, but if you come and say things that just aren't so, it just really doesn't do you any justice, and it's just not right, you know? I'm all, criticize the heck out of me or anybody for doing something wrong, but don't come and say that the stuff's not available, like it's a secret meeting, because it's not true, you know, and I take offense to that, and, anyway, it was.
Well, you can,
Ms. Spencer, you'd like to be
you
recognized?
can take all the offense that you want, but you have so many error messages on, and Susan told me this morning that you're having trouble with your website or the web server or something, but we printed out all of the error messages, and it's not available. It may be available right now because county council has access to she's online. She may have access to it this moment, but at 8 o'clock this morning, those error messages were still on there. That it was not, the document was not available. So I can appreciate you getting weary of the criticism, but I have never come to this chamber without documents. And I don't say things lightly to you. I come with documents. And so I have a very thick skin as far as criticism. You 5, obviously, some of you are thinner skinned than others, but I don't mind you objecting to the criticism, but the criticism is due. And again, I don't come here without the backup. And the fact that you're excused this time because your website is down may or may not be enough because you were able to put a lot of documents on your website, but the ones that are critical, that maybe would be of great concern, like salary increases to cover whatever, the budget, the resolutions and everything, the fact that those in particular are having technical difficulties, it's just very troubling that you use that excuse when documents are not available or are just simply not uploaded for availability.
Thank you. Ms. Onto?
I did talk to Ms. Spencer this morning. We did have one document that did not upload this week, and I brought extra copies in today. That was the budget item. Everything else was uploaded.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add to that I actually was accessing these ordinances as of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I was able to get all of them on my personal computer at home.
We printed them all,
I saw Mr. Jonas back there. Mr. Alba's got a comment, then I'll take Mr. Jonas in the rear.
Yeah,
Mr. Alba?
to kind of get back on topic here, as far as the H4 goes, which we should be discussing. To help Julie maybe understand this a little better, I'm in a different position. This ordinance here will not affect me whatsoever. Because I was hired on after the first of the year, I become a supervisor, so I'm already doing what this here is. And what this is this is to get everybody else within the county on the same page and the same board. Because of the way that the CalPERS and the state laws have changed, you know, all the other county employees have got there, so now we're just finishing up with the board of supervisors. Like I said, this has no effect with me, all it's gonna do is put these four on the same playing field tonight. And that's basically the gist of it as I
Thank you, Supervisor Alba. Mr. Jonas, I'd like to recognize.
Just a comment, I've been being drug into the new technical generation, screaming and kicking now. Every department within the county and the city, all school districts have always been very helpful if I go in and sign a request for information sheet, and have delivered usually within an hour. I know all of this stuff would have been available if you walked into any one of the offices or a specific office, maybe county councils, signed that sheet, she would have handed you a full copy, probably when this was posted, I would think.
Thank you, Mr. Jonas.
Well, I know it was posted as of Thursday last week.
Anybody else in the audience have any questions or comments? If not, the chair to entertain a motion. Supervisor
Mr. Chairman,
Chapman?
I'd like to, if I could, weigh in on the issue. I mean, obviously, the process is one thing, but I think we need to talk also about, at some point, I agree with Mr. Alba, the merit of the issue.
Right.
And I appreciate the explanation given by Julie in terms of trying to understand the fiscal implications of this. And I'm not sure when the practice began with county employees, where the county, as the employer, picked up the contribution that theoretically is supposed to come from the employee when it comes to the retirement contributions. The retirement contributions comes in from two phases. There's a part that's put in by the employer and a part that's put in by the employee. That's kind of true even in the private sector a lot of times. Years ago, whenever it was, and I couldn't even begin to tell you when, I think it even predated my service on the board, which means that it would probably be ancient times. That was the practice, and it's part of the compensation. So when you look at the compensation of an employee, whether it's a board member, a department head, or just a line field worker, is not just the actual salary they receive, but it's all the other benefits. And if anybody who's been in a private employer who knows, it's not so much the salary you pay your employees on a day-to-day basis, but it's all the other costs that are associated with it. And for pretty much for every dollar that's spent on a salary, anywhere from 30 to 40% would be additional costs. You have workers' comp, you have insurance, you have health insurance, you have retirement if you have a retirement program, and those costs all add up. And so from an employer's point of view, having employees is an expensive proposition. What this new state law, from what was represented to the board, affects and how it affects us, and this was the negotiations with all 430 odd or how many employees we have, is that they, as of July 1, have to start making their own contribution, and we cannot pay that on their behalf. So across the board, whatever that contribution, 6-7%, becomes basically a pay cut. And so in the negotiations with the employees, we said, okay, whatever that value is that you lose, that you have to pay there now, would be offset by an increase in your regular pay to be able to make it at least a break-even point for the employee. In terms of budget-wise, it's the same budget that we have. I mean, so whether we pay it as an employer contribution for retirement or we pay it as salary, it's still the same dollar amount being assessed to the budget and through the budget to the taxpayer. So that part should be fairly clear. What this ordinance does is puts the salaries of the Board of Supervisors on the same level or playing field as the employees. So in other words, yes, I'm getting a raise, but that raise is to offset the increased costs that I will be expected to pay towards my retirement as the employee portion that the law now requires. Now, I can tell you, we talk about revenue neutral. I don't think from an employee point of view, my point of view, that it would be revenue neutral to me, because the contribution that's made by the county for my retirement is pre-tax. The contribution that I will be making to my retirement will be taxable. And so therefore, in the long run, I'll be paying more, even though supposedly it's represented to me as being cost neutral. So the effect of this ordinance is not designed to give the Board of Supervisors an increase in their compensation, which includes salary and all the various benefits, but to hopefully make it be as close to break even for those who serve. Now, under the ordinances that exist, theoretically, or supposed to be, the salary of the Board of Supervisors is supposed to be 25% of whatever the salary of a Superior Court judge. And based on the memo that I saw from staff, that would put our salary somewhere in the $40-some thousand range. I don't have that right in front of me. But anyway, it's 40-some thousand. And several years ago, I believe it was in about 2002, when that came before the board, and a couple of times subsequent to that time, the board has actually opted not to give itself that extra compensation. So the salary that the board has been taking, at least in recent years, is below the level that was designed by the ordinance. So in many respects, the board has contributed to supporting, the county budget and the taxpayers' interest in the county budget by waiving compensation that it could otherwise receive. And I'm not saying that from a self-serving point of view, but from the point of view of reality, that the board members that serve, I think, serve for the most part because of their contribution to doing some good for the community rather than personal enrichment. And it costs money to be able to serve. And so I think the salary that we do receive, is a good investment. And if you're going to have people willing to serve, you're going to have to be able to pay them too. So I think the balance is there, and this ordinance maintains that balance. And I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we introduce the ordinance. And waiving the reading just to keep us from having the clerk read, this page verbatim. And that's a standard parliamentary procedure that's used. Now, I will have to say, one time I objected, it takes a unanimous consent to waive the reading. I objected to that. It was the reapportionment ordinance a couple of decades ago. And it was very interesting as Teresa Nagel was reading the ordinance about 3/4 of the way through, and some of the fine print of the meets and bounds description. You turn this many feet and then turn and go this many feet in terms of outlining the boundary. There was an error in the ordinance, and they had the line going the wrong direction. And it just happened to be it affected my district, and so I knew where the line was going. And it was a good thing that we waived the reading, because otherwise we would have adopted an ordinance that would have had the wrong boundary for the supervisorial districts. That doesn't happen very often, but yet it is an option we have. It's not designed to hide anything, it's designed to expedite, the conduct of business.
So you're moving the waiving as well?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Supervisor Walsek. Any further discussion by board members? Any further questions by the audience? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you poll the board as an ordinance requires roll call?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba? Supervisor Pyle? Supervisor Wassett? Supervisor Hanson?
Aye. Carries unanimously. We're going to move on then to item D3, which is our 10:15 time certain. Please. Last for workforce development, and it's the annual program update, but you're not here.
No. Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Good
members of the
morning.
board. Tracy Holtz, Executive Director of the Alliance for Workforce Development.
Thank you, Tracy, for coming.
Thank you. Terry Heiser-Haynes is also here in the audience. I'm going to give the report today. You should have that before you. Just it's our annual report on the activities of the Lassen Business and Career Network. As most of you know, the Alliance for Workforce Development is a nonprofit that operates the Workforce Investment Act programs in Butte, Modoc, Lassen, Plymouth, and Sierra counties, and Mr. Chapman is the representative to the NORTEC Governing Board on behalf of Lassen County. Before you, you've got some numbers. I'm going to briefly go over those and address any questions that you may have. The number of individuals that have accessed the services available at the Business and Career Network is 11,872, and that's for the first 3 quarters of our fiscal year, which is July 1st through March 31st, 2013.
Those are not individual visits,
Those are individuals. Yes,
Right.
that's not this
So that
unduplicated
they
count.
make multiple visits, obviously.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
The number of businesses served through July 1st, 2012 through March 31st is 208, with the range of services from they need help posting their jobs, they need labor law assistance, they're looking to expand, layoff assistance, a wide variety of services. The interesting part that I want to talk about here is of those 208 businesses, 1,191 services were provided to those businesses, which means that they're coming back for repeat services. They work with Terry, they work with our staff, they come back, they are satisfied with the services that they're receiving, they come back for more. So that is that's an average of 5.5 services to those businesses. So that's further demonstrates that we are developing and maintaining those relationships with our businesses here in Lassen County. The Workforce Investment Act enrollments for the same time period we're talking about is 103. We have over $95,000 has been spent on those individuals on a wide variety of services. Most of that dollar amount is training. SB 698, which went into effect on July 1st, requires that 27% of our funds go to direct training for the individuals that we serve. So that is a result of legislature that we are mandated to provide training services. So you'll see that dollar is up pretty high, but that's the dollar amount that we're putting towards individuals in training capacity. I have some pretty good news to report of those that we've worked with, and I must say that there are very stringent eligibility guidelines for these individuals. But of the 103 that we have worked with so far this year, 94% have entered employment, which is a pretty phenomenal number, with an average wage at their placement of $12.25.
What is the typical percentage? Is this?
Typical percentage, well, our goal is 86% that NORTEC sets for us. The state percentage is around 74%. So we are far exceeding, yes.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes, yes. Our rapid response activities, which is the activities in which we respond to businesses that have downsized or closed. We have worked with 10 businesses, which represents 113 individuals who have lost their jobs. And I must say that one thing that's very important for us to note, it's not, the state looks at counting business closures if they have 10 or more employees. 40% of those that we worked with had less than 10. So we keep those stats because we think it's very important to make sure that the state understands that small business is not 10 or more employees. So we have worked with 113 individuals to assist them back into employment. On the second page, I'm going to go over a couple program highlights. Our on-the-job training program, we had 18 businesses in Lassen County that were able to hire through our on-the-job training programs, which provides a 50% reimbursement to that employer for the time and effort that they must invest to actually provide that on-the-job training support to the individual. And we had nearly $65,000 in reimbursements going back to our employer community who participated in that program. The Day Reporting Center, as a result of AB 109, we've worked diligently with the Sheriff's Office, Behavioral Health Department, Health and Social Services, Probation, and we are actively at the Day Reporting Center every week providing workshops to the individuals. It's been quite a success and we look forward to expanding that relationship. More recently is our Micro Enterprise Technical Assistance Grant, which is a partnership with Lassen County Planning and Building Services Department. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Jenna and Jamie. They've been wonderful to work with. Terry's been handling this program. It's not an easy program to operate and to implement, and we have 11 businesses right now that are going through our growing rural businesses in Lassen County that are getting a wide variety of services to help them grow their business and to be a successful business in Lassen County. So I thank you for your partnership, and thank you to everyone who's working on that. New to our offerings this year, we partnered with Melody Brawley and her team. It's been an amazing partnership. I'm very, very blessed to have Mel as a partner. We are working with the GR clients and providing resume and application assistance. And while we don't have some concrete numbers right now because it is piloting, we do know that generally caseloads have gone down and that individuals that have gone through these workshops are obtaining employment. And with that, I'm going to entertain any questions that you might have about what's been happening at business in Crayola.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for the presentation, and thank you and Terry and all the rest of your staff for their hard work. I know Jim works closely with you, and I certainly watch the developments, and I think